Hello, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm bringing you a global monthly video hop. So if you'd like to look in the description below after you watch this video, you can see links to the other demonstrators from around the world who are participating this month. And this month's theme is home decor. So I've decided to use the Flowering Cactus Product Medley to show you how to make some adorable little pad and pen holders, and these ones actually have calendars in them because this medley lends itself to making quick, adorable little projects. So first I'll tell you a little bit about the medley. You can find it on page 8 and 9 of the mini catalog. So there's page 8. So there's lots of beautiful projects that you can make, cards and other decorations. And the medley itself comes with a selection of 6x6 inch designer series paper, a stamp set, matching dies, some felt embellishments, and some twine. And it lends itself to quick craft making. This project is set so you can make anything you want with it, and the dies actually cut out some of the images from the paper. Let me just show you. So there's the stamp set, Flowering Cactus, with some cactus and some lovely little sentiments. There is the different felts that they're already pre-cut and stitched, so you can see you can pop them out. So lots of different designs. There's different flowers to embellish your cactus in 2 different colors. And then the dies. They've got dies that cut out the images that you stamp, and then some accent dies, so you get these little prickly images there. And I'll be showing you some things I've done with that with today's project. You also get twine, Calypso Coral, and I think that might be Sahara Sand. Doesn't say. I'll find out and let you know later on what that color thread is. And then the designer series paper is just gorgeous. So these images here, the dies will cut them out. So your dies match up with the images to make it quick and easy to cut out. So you can put that straight through your full-size cut and emboss machine. If you have the mini cut and emboss machine, just trim around some of the edges and then just put through smaller strips. So the dies will cut the different cactus, and there's dies to cut these flowers. I did discover, though, the double flower die does not... Oh, yeah, it does match up. Okay. I must have had it upside down. I thought it didn't match up. So all the dies do match up the different flowers. So that's quite a nice piece that you can cut easily with the dies, or you could use the other side of it. And let me show you the other beautiful papers. So then we've got the pretty purple flowers, and then the cactus on the other side. Some more cactus with flowers. And the other side is just some prickly cactus images, some more floral with the prickly parts on the other side, and again some more cactus with the lines and X's, which could be used for anything, not just the cactus, and some more cactus with some interesting colors. Now the colors for the designer series paper, and some of the colors I have used are Calypso Coral, we've got Highland Heather, Mint Macaron, so that's the lighter color there, and some Mossy Meadow is the darker green, and then there's a bit of Pear Pizzazz. So there's like 3 shades of green in this set. So let me get showing you how to make this home decor project. Now when I create my projects, I like to try to size them, so I use my paper as sparingly as possible. So when I create a project, I size it down so I can either use one sheet or get a couple out of one sheet of paper. So in this case, I've created this project so I can get 2 out of one A4 sheet. Now, if you're in another country with different sizes, you'll need to adjust them for your paper. And I started this based on the mini calendars, so what the size I needed for the front of the project for the mini calendar, as well as the width for my little notepads. Now the little notepads and pens I got free because I was involved in an event last year. So I ended up with a bunch of pens and notepads free, and I decided to do something with them. So if you got larger notepads, you'll just need to size it to fit. And I will show you how to do the cutting and the measuring, and then also one piece of DSP. So for this project, one sheet of paper and one piece of DSP will do 2 of them. You can make 2 out of one set. So let me get things out of the way so I can do some cutting for you. The other thing is you'll just need ink or to die cut the designer series paper. So and I'll get my little cheat sheet. So when I design a project, I start out usually I use just white paper, but this time I used other paper and designed it and then measured it and changed it and wrote my notes down so I know what size will fit. So for this, on the A4, I'll be telling you inches and I'll try to tell you metric as well, which is what we use here in New Zealand, but I did measure it up for inches. So start with your A4 paper. The long side here, there's the short side. So along the long side, you want to cut your paper to 9.5 inches, which is 24.1 centimeters. So you're going to cut 9.5 inches straight down, and we're going to use everything, so don't throw anything away. That's going to be the cover for our notepad. And then you're going to turn your paper, and now we want to cut it at 4 1/8 inch, which is actually half of that, which is 4 1/8 is 10.5 centimeters. 4 1/8. Okay, and then this piece that we've already cut is 4 1/8 as well. So you could have cut either direction first, it's up to you. So 4 1/8 inches or 10.5 centimeters. So that's our paper cut up. So as you can see, with one A4 piece, I've got enough to do 2 projects. So now we're going to score. Make sure you're using the scoring piece. And so for the cover for our booklet, we're going to score the top. I'm just checking my notes. At 3 3/4 inches, which is about 9.5. So this is scoring it. And 3 5/8. Just check, yeah, 3 5/8, which is 9.2. So that gives us a little groove there, so you can just bend those score lines, and that will fit my notepad. So again, it depends on your notepad, how thick it is and how big it is, whether this piece will fit it. But so I've got that going straight there, and I'll be gluing that down shortly. Then the other piece, start on your long sides, and you want to score 1/2 inch, which is 1.2 centimeters on each side, each long side. So 1/2 inch, and then I just flip it round and do another 1/2 inch on this side. Okay. Then you want to do 2 1/4 inches, which is 5.7 centimeters. And then you want to slide it up to 2 3/4 inches, which is 7 centimeters. And score. And then you want it to be 5 1/2 inches, which is almost 14 centimeters. It's about 13.95. And then slide it up to 8 centimeters, which is 20.3 centimeters, 8 inches, 20.3 centimeters. And then the final one is going to be 8 1/2, not the final one, second to final, 8 1/2, which is 21.6 centimeters. So 8 1/2 inches, 21.6 centimeters. And the final one is 9 inches, which is 22.8 centimeters. Okay, so we've got score lines, same 1/2 inch on either side, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more score lines coming up the sides. All right, so I'll pop that away for now. So let's get cutting. So first thing is slide the long sides and burnish them. And then you're going to want to snip off part of this. So when you're looking at your paper, pretty much the score line that's in the center, you want to snip. Now don't worry if you snip the wrong one on that end, because you will snip those eventually, but you don't want to snip the 3 little ones on this side. I'll show you in a minute why. So you want to snip this one, so it's basically the middle score line. Just snip it up to the fold line, and then do the same on the other side. Okay. All right. Now you want to cut away this section here. So you can just use your scissors to do that, but I find it's quicker to use my cutting tool. So I'll bring it back in. And if you fold over the part that you want to keep, which is the part that has the 2 score lines, 2 big matching sections, and the part we're going to cut away is the part that has 3 score lines down the end. So if you fold it over, and remember this was a 1/2 inch scored in, so just simply put your paper back in, line that back up to 1/2 inch, making sure that you've folded over the part that you want to keep, and then just slide the blade, and voila, it's cut. Don't throw it away. We will be using it. We're using every piece of this cardboard. And then you can just simply flip that one over. Again, line that up at the 1/2 inch mark. Make sure this part is folded over because you don't want to cut that. So 1/2 inch mark. And cut until it's gone. And again, we're going to keep that. So while we have this out, I'll show you one of these pieces. We've already got 3 score lines on it. So you're going to want to put it in there at 2 inches. So this ends at 2 inches. Where the score lines are, they're on this section to the left. And you're going to want to do one more score. And then you're going to want to slide it up to 2 1/2. So that for a metric is about 5.1 centimeters. And you want to slide it up to 2 1/2, which would be 6.3 centimeters. And then we want to snip it off. Hopefully I did that right. Okay, and we're going to keep that and use that later. And then we're also going to keep that other piece. Now we can put the cutter away. Hopefully you're still with me. Now we're going to unfold everything. So the first thing is fold the top part, fold and burnish. And to give the nice curved edges, so you don't bend them, because if they're pointy, they'll just bend a lot when you're taking your pen and your paper out. I have used, I can't think of the name of the punch. I'll look it up. I will have in the description the name of all the products that I use and the codes. So don't worry about that now. So this punch, it's a triple punch and the area with the curve. You could use, if you have any of the old other circle punches, etc., you could usually do that. So when this is folded over, and we've got that little pointy end up there, we're going to slide it right in all the way. It goes in at a corner, and just punch it, and you get that nice curve. And the other one, again, slide it in just till it gets to the corner, and punch it, and so we have those curves. So that gives you those curves. Now we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish this section. And then we'll snip that. So just up to, sometimes it's easier if it's folded down, then you know you're not going to cut too far, because your scissors won't go any further. If you go in straight across, you might cut too far. So I find one tip is to fold it down, and you're going to cut straight up the line on both sides. And then I find it's easier to make it fit better if I just do a little wedge out of the part that's going to be not seen. So this little middle part, hopefully you can see, I've just cut a wedge out of there. Okay, and then the same on the other side. So I'm going to bend it over, cut it straight up, and then just cut the wedge. Doesn't matter how much of a wedge, that piece is not going to be seen when you glue it all together. Okay, so that'll be the front. Yep, that'll be the front, so the back needs to go down that way. So we do the back. We're going to now fold, this is going to concertina, so fold them different directions, these three lines. So one down, and then the next one up, and the next one down. If you find you fold it in the wrong direction, just flip them over, fold them the correct direction afterwards. Okay, so that is giving us the shape that we're going to have for our little stand. Okay, now I'm going to, I forgot about cutting the DSP, so we're going to do that now. Bring the cutter back in. So our designer series paper, I have to look at my cheat sheet. So get the most use out of it. Now this one isn't directional. If you have a directional paper, so let me show you. So this one is directional because the cactus are all going that way. And where's another good example? Can't find it. There we go. So these ones are directional. So if you do have directional paper, when you cut it, you need to make sure that you've got your direction going left and right. This one doesn't appear to be directional because the flowers are going all different ways, and the back is the same. But if you are doing directional paper, make sure you have it that way when you do your first cut. So your first cut is going to be at 3 3/8 inches. So that's 1, 2, 3/8. So that's just over 8.5 centimeters. So again, if this were directional, I would want to be cutting the direction that way. Okay. 3 3/8. Now this longer piece is actually going to be the cover for the notepad. So the longer piece you can then take and cut it, turn it the other way. So now essentially if it were directional it'd be going this way now. You're cutting that part, and that's at 2 inches, which is just 5.1 centimeters. And if you're doing 2 of these, you want to cut 2 pieces off, and then you'll have 1 2-inch piece left over. And then the piece that you've already that's left over from that, you want to cut. So you're going to want this to be 2 by 3 inches, so you can turn it the long way because this is 6 by 6. So we know that's the long way, the full part. I'll slide that down so you can actually see. So you want to cut that at 3 inches, which is 7.6 centimeters. And again, there's 1 for each piece. And then turn it this way. And so the skinnier side, you want it to be 2 inches. And again, if this were directional, that would be the direction up. So you want it to be at 2 inches here. And again, we're going to use all of that. Okay. So with the designer series paper 6 by 6, you'll end up making 2 projects if you want, and you end up with one 2 by 3 inch piece left over. Okay, so that's all the cutting. Now let's put things together. So I'll decorate that in a minute. Put that aside. So with this paper, you can go either direction. So you can decorate the front one way, or you can decorate it the other way. It's up to you how you want to go. Some of my projects, I mixed them up, and like in this case, the background designer series paper was the back side, and that was the front side. So it depends on how you want it to go. So you can die cut, as I said, you can die cut the images from the designer series paper, or you can stamp and die cut them. I went ahead and stamped some of the images in advance, and I already die cut them to match with the paper. So those are some of the flowers, and there's a really interesting die with this set. There's 2 interesting dies, well 3 actually, that cut out don't cut out the images from the stamps, but this one here cuts out a big piece of cactus. So there you go. This one here just does grooves, cuts lines in your paper, so you can just have peek through grooves. And this here, this little one here, will cut some little holes in your paper, like little cactus images. I think you can see it. There you go. So you can see it right there. So that die, you can cut the holes there, as well as it gives you the little pieces that you can use for decorating this. So it's quite an interesting die for there. And this one is showing, that picture is showing the other die that just cuts the lines with the little X's on them. Okay, so now let's put a few things together. So the piece that we added another score line and then cut it at 2.5, you want to fold those bits over and then glue them. That's going to give us some, that's going to hold our pen in place, because if we didn't have that, you might be able to see it in there. If I didn't have that, then the pen, when I put the pen in, so if I put the pen on that side without that, it's going to flop everywhere. But having that little holder there keeps the pen from falling over. So we're going to make that little pen holder. So that little piece, just a bit of glue on one end, flip it over and just hold it in place. Oh, a bit too much glue. and even slide it down to glue it together. All right, and then you can just set that aside. And our other little scrap piece that we had, we're going to stamp on that. Now, I think I forgot to mention, I'm using Mossy Meadow for the background here. Now, because it's so dark, I'm going to use the Memento black ink to stamp on it, so you can see the words. And the words I'm using, there's lots of different words you could use in this set here. I'm using the Life Can Get Kind of Prickly. And when you stamp on here, one side has the score lines. So you don't want to stamp where the score lines are. You want to stamp this section without the score lines. Now you could pre-cut this and then stamp, but I think stamping's better. And then I'm going to cut it off to be 2 inches. So if you stamp first and you stamp one side more than the other, then you can cut it to the right size. So using the Memento black ink, I'm just going to stamp Life Can Get Kind of Prickly. And because it's a photopolymer, you should be able to see through it nicely. My other ones that I did, so see, I did that crooked. So I'll try the other side. My other images I just stamped them in the same color as the background cardstock, and it just gave you a different look. But this background is so dark that I don't think it would show up if I did a different color. Let's try to get this one straight. Okay, there, that's much straighter. Better job. Okay. So then you could just cut this with your scissors, which is fine, but I tend to do things crooked when I do scissors, so I've got my little trimmer, or you can use your big trimmer. So if you are going to trim it, I suggest you trim the side near the L first. There you go. So I'm going to trim the side near the L first. Okay, and now I'm going to measure it 2 inches, which is 5.1 centimeters. So I'm going to do that at 2 inches. And that way it fits perfectly. Okay, and that will be decorating the outside of our box. Now you could trim, if it's a rough cut there, you could trim that down as well. Depending on how that edge cuts. It's a little bit more difficult to trim that, especially on the big trimmer, so I'm just going to see if I can get this done. There we go. There, so nice, smooth. Okay, and I have to remember to stamp on that, glue the back side. That's the nice front. So, as I said before, we are using pretty much all the pieces. This is all we have left over. So this project uses up most of your pieces. So now we need to decorate, and we need to decide, you know, are we going, which side of the designer series paper are we going to use? I'm thinking I might have that for the notebook and then have that for the front. The other thing too is because I'm putting a calendar on the front, you don't really see a lot around the edge. You just see a little bit hint of the edge. So it might be better to go with the pink. Depends on what you want. If you don't have the mini calendars, you can simply decorate the front. So that's why I got these extra pieces. So you could decorate the front with your other images if you want. So don't worry if you don't have mini calendars, just decorate it however you'd like. My inspiration from this was a project I'd done years ago, and that was the one I had done years ago. Again, a bigger notepad, so I had to size it all to fit, and as you can see, I just decorated the front, but it's the same mechanism and the same pen holder, etc. So you can simply decorate the front if you don't have the calendar. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to go with just not using the flower side at all. Yeah, I think I won't use the flower side. So what you need to do first is glue your DSP in to place. And I also, if I am using a calendar, quite often I like to stamp some of the pages. I'm not going to stamp all the pages, but if you're going to stamp your calendar, do it first. And I know it says January, we're already beyond January, but this is just the sample I'm using. So what I'm going to do here is show you how to stamp your little calendar when I find my ink. Okay, so I'm going to use Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to use Calypso Coral to mimic the colors I have there. But if I stamp it straight on there, it's going to be too dark. So what I suggest is have a scrap piece of paper, ink it up, stamp off, and then you can stamp on your calendar and it's not going to be too dark. So again, stamp off, and then you can just stamp on your calendar. So that just gives you a little kind of decorativeness on your calendar. And you can do other pages, you can go, on other sections and put your decoration wherever you want, right in the middle. And you could go right through, but I suggest doing this before you stick your calendar down. So that's a couple with the Mossy Meadow, and then I'm just going to do some flowers on there in Calypso Coral. Now this one does double flowers in the one stamp because the die will cut those two flowers in one go. But if you only want one of the flowers, just ink up one side. So in this case, I've inked up just the one corner, and I'm going to stamp it off because it is quite dark. And then just press it on to the part that I want it to be on. So as you can see, it just gives you a subtle look. But you don't want to do it full strength because you won't be able to read any of the numbers. So I've stamped it off, stamped it once there, and now I'm going to just stamp it again because there is still a little bit of ink left on there. And stamp that off. And then there you go. So you can carry on decorating your calendar however you like, if you have a mini calendar. But you want to do that before you glue it down. So now we can glue the calendar down. The other thing too is when the calendar's finished, you could either glue the next year's calendar on it, or you could just glue a piece of cardstock there and then decorate the front, as I said. So you can carry on using this decoration even when it's finished. Okay, so glue that. You could use double-sided tape too. You don't have to use glue. Now, this little strip here is just going to decorate the inside, just so when the notepad's out, it's not just boring and green. Some people would have designer series paper cover the whole thing, but you're not going to see it, and I don't like to waste paper. So, and as I said, this project is made so it fits perfectly. And the colors coordinate so well that you can just make two projects. If you were doing different colors, you can make two projects and flip them around as shown in here. So the background color of these are the same, but I flipped the designer series paper over. So you've got that, or you've got the cactus, and that's the same exact designer series paper. So those two projects were made with one piece of cardstock and one piece of designer series paper. So once you have that done, then you want to glue your little flaps. So you've got your little flaps there. Just a tiny bit of glue on there, and then that will bring your sides up and just put the little flap up and hold it in place. So you're just going to hold that flap there for a second because Tombow glues pretty quick, and that just holds it so it sits in the right position. Okay, now don't forget your little pen holder. You can be left or right-handed, however you want to be. So you want glue on 3 sections of it, but we'll put it on 2 for now so I don't stick my finger in the wrong. And then so choose the side you want it to be, and then put it kind of near the top. So I'm choosing this side fairly close to the top so it holds the pen steady. And because that was scored at the same spots as everything else, it should fit. Now if you're having trouble holding it in place, you can use your pick a tool and just, you don't even have to take the top off, just hold that to hold it in place. Or you can simply take the pen that you're going to use on the project and use that to hold it down. Okay. Now, the last section here is you want the glue just on this rectangular, the short section. So put your glue there or your tape. But I suggest doing both sides because if you try to put the glue on after you got one side up, it's difficult. So put both sides and you just slide it down and it just stays there, and then you can just hold up the edges for a bit. Or you can slide it over to the side and then just use your bone folder or your pick a tool to get in there just to spread the glue, push it down. Now this side you can't put your bone folder in because we've got that pen holder, but that's where the pen comes in handy because we can now slide the pen in, and using the weight of the pen we can push it down. There you go. So that's the front of our card done, or not card, our project. So used to doing cards. This last part, put a bit of glue there, and then you want to hold it in place so it's just going on the edge. Now the back of it is actually, with the way it's scored, it's slightly shorter than the front, and that's because when I first did it, it was top heavy. And my last project that was a bigger, the taller one I showed you, the black and white one, it does fold flat, but because it was taller, it wasn't too heavy in the front. But this one I found too heavy, so I've actually gone and made this section slightly shorter. Plus, it also allows for 2 projects to be made with 1 piece of cardstock. Okay, so that won't fold flat, it's not meant to be, but that little score line there allows this to sit flat outward, so it sits, and now it sits at an angle backward. So that part is done, and now all we need to do is decorate. So with your notepad, simply a bit of glue or tape on this back part. Make sure you've got the paper in the front and the card backing there. And just slip it over. It's perfectly sized, fits the front. So if you have a different size notebook, you'll have to adjust the sizes to fit your notebook. If your notebook's smaller, then that's fine. It could just be wider, covering the side. If it's shorter, just do your score lines elsewhere. If it's fatter, you need to have more depth between the score lines there. So that allows it to open and close. And then I've decided to go this way with my designer series paper. And just pop that down. I think that looks better because it picks up the mossy meadow. And now the fun part of decorating. So this, because it's cut at 2 inches, it's will fit perfectly across, which is my straight side. They both look crooked. But I might decide to decorate it differently. This one I might give a bit more decoration to. Kind of thinking that gets lost in the background. So decorate it however you'd like. I'm gluing things down using dimensionals. Okay, so that's how I decided to decorate it. So with the words down at the bottom. So 2 inches gets it right over your designer series paper. And then I decided to use the die cut images and pop some of them up on dimensionals. And there you go. So when you're looking at it that way, you just have a sneak peek of the notebook, and when you have the notebook out, you get to see the full effect. So if you don't have the calendar, if you don't have any calendars, then I suggest just, decorate the front with some other images or stamped sections. So I hope you like that. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe so you'll see when I release other videos. And thank you for watching the Global Monthly Video Hop. If you'd like to see more pictures and information about the project, you can go to my blog at papercraft.addiction.blogspot.co.nz. If you'd like to purchase any of these products, contact your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you're in New Zealand and don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to be yours. You can go to michellekritchley.stampinup.net to order or to find contact details. I also do classes in my home if you're in the area. And this is just showing you some of the other ones that I've done. So the background's pretty much the same, but the notebooks are slightly different. These have all been cut out of the designer series paper. So there's a lot that you can do, a lot of different ways you can decorate your notebooks. And thanks so much for watching. And there's another one. So lots of ways to have fun with the cactus. Hope you have a lovely day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.